Hello again to all my food warriors and welcome back to the channel. It has been a little while since we've posted a new episode. We've had a bit of a wave of illness running through the house, but now everything is back to normal, and so looking forward to getting back to cooking something other than soup as a means of getting everybody back to health. And so today we've got something very special coming your way. Today we are making one of my absolute favorite desserts, apple strudel. Absolutely phenomenal recipe. What I have here, this is 11 apples. These are gala apples that I've peeled and cut up. So we're just going to prepare this last one. Not on the heat just yet. But what we have here, again, these were apples that we had sitting in the fridge. They were approaching the point of being kind of overripe. And that's exactly what you want when you want to be cooking and making dessert with fruit. I'm not a big sweets guy to begin with. Not a big cake guy, certainly. And so what I like to do is I do like to make desserts with fruit when I can. So things like pies, strudels, absolutely love those types of applications. And so what I have here, these are a dozen gala apples, and all I've done is I basically just peeled these with a little vegetable peeler. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these up, again, kind of rough and ready. This is a very rustic strudel, but this is absolutely one of my favorite go-to desserts. This will feed a crowd, and again, it's mostly fruit, which if we are going to be making desserts, you know what, there are certainly less healthy options than something that's predominantly fruit. And so what we're going to do now that we've peeled these, we're just going to cut them up fairly rough, just into slices. There we are. So nothing too fancy. We're going to cook these guys down. There we are. So this is going to add to the rest. We are going to cook these down over time, so we're not going to put these raw. Some people do put a raw filling into the strudel. I like something that cooks down a little bit more. The texture is a little bit finer. I find the product is a little bit more silky in the end. So all I want to add to this is just a little bit of butter. So what I've got here is about 2 tablespoons of butter that I'm just going to add to the bottom of my pan here, just to get that melted. There we are. So I'm just going to get this onto the heat, and what I'm going to add to this, just a couple of other very simple ingredients. This is the applesauce that I've made for my kids since they were babies, and I'm telling you, I cannot keep this in the house longer than a couple of days. They are in there, spoons, mouths open, shoveling it in. It's very, very healthy. So again, a little bit of butter, a couple of tablespoons of butter. We've got a dozen apples here, and this is about a half cup of brown sugar, and this is the only sugar that I'm putting into this. So we're just going to break this up a little bit. There we are, and we're going to give this a quick mix. Now I do want to cook this down for, I'd say, about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. I do want the apples to start to break down a little bit. So what I'm going to do here as well is take about a cup of apple juice. This is just a cup of unsweetened apple juice. I'm just going to put that into my pan. I want to start the liquid leaching out of the apples. And then what I have here as well, just a little pinch of salt, literally maybe a half a teaspoon. And then I've got a full tablespoon of beautifully ground cinnamon. And I do like my applesauce to be quite perfumed with cinnamon. There we are. There we are. And now all we're going to do is we're just going to put the lid on this, and we're going to let some of that liquid start to leach out. So we're going to give this a good probably 10 or 15 minutes with the lid on, and then we will come back and take a peek here and see how it's doing. So I will see you in about 15 minutes. We are back, and I can just hear that pan going, and so it's been about 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to give this a quick check. Oh, look at that. Just bubbling away absolutely beautifully. Oh, the smell is so intense. Now, like I said, I'm just going to leave this now uncovered. This is on a medium-high heat, so I'm just going to leave this uncovered for the next, I'd say probably 15 minutes or so, maybe 20, because what I want to do is evaporate all of that liquid that's at the bottom of the pan, and I want to cook my apples down, and I want my mixture to thicken beautifully. So my apples will start to break down, which is exactly what I want. What I'm trying to make here is really a very simple, very rustic type of applesauce. And this is going to form the filling of my apple strudel. Like I said, this is the applesauce that I've made for my kids growing up over the years, and they absolutely love this stuff. When I use apples for this, what I'm using today is a dozen Gala apples, but I've used a combination of Gala, Honeycrisp, Fuji. They work well. Those three in combination all work very, very well. They break down beautifully. They still maintain a little bit of shape and integrity, but they're beautifully sweet. They're a little bit acidic. They're a very balanced apple, and they work really, really well for an applesauce type application. So I'm just going to let this boil away, just continue to simmer away and thicken. So I will see you in about 15 minutes. All right, it's been about a half hour, and we are basically there. All of the liquid at the bottom of our pan, as I scrape it away, very little liquid left. And this is exactly what we want. We want a nice, intensely flavored, concentrated flavoring for, or concentrated filling rather, for our apple strudel. And now what I'm going to do, if I were going to make applesauce, if I wanted to make more of a rustic style applesauce, just take this off the heat and take a potato masher and just break this down a little bit more. But I want to keep the integrity of the apples in the stuffing for my strudel, and so I'm going to leave these as they are. They've maintained in large part their integrity, their shape. Some of the liquid has come out. You can smell just the intensity of apples and cinnamon, just absolutely fantastic. What I'm going to add to this now, just to give it a little bit more complexity and to help this cool down, is a couple of pears. Now these are Baino pears that I found in the market this week. They looked really, really nice. Normally I'd use a Bartlett pear for this application, but these looked really good, very ripe, beautifully sweet. These are a pear from Portugal, and all I'm going to do here, I've just given these a wash. I'm going to use skin and all. I'm just going to take the core out of these. There we are. And make sure I take that little seed pocket out of there as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run these through a box grater. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow them to stay whole, to stay fresh, and the cool pear is going to help to cool down our applesauce. So again, this is all we're going to do. Cut these in half. Just take out our stem end here. There we are. Take out that little seed pocket. And if there's any bit of the core, we just take that out as well. There we are. Excellent. So now all I'm going to do on this plate is I'm just going to give these a grate over the large side of my box grater. Again, the skin is relatively delicate, so I'm just going to keep skin and all. Keep the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber. Keep all of that goodness in my apple strudel. There we are. So these will grate up fairly quickly. They will help my mixture to cool. And then what I'm going to do before I start assembling my strudel, we're going to get dinner ready. So we got a little bit of a 2-for-1 going on here today. But we want to make sure we get all of this juice and all. It's going to add a good bit of complexity to our filling. Otherwise it would be somewhat one-dimensional just with apples. There we are. I want to make sure we be careful here with our knuckles. We don't want to grate a knuckle or a fingertip into this. And so as we get close to the end, I just open up my hand and I allow it to go right down to the grater. There we are. There we are. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, the smell of this. They're beautifully sweet, beautifully perfumed, and they're going to add a nice bit of complexity to our mixture here. So I'm just going to take all of this, juice and all. There we are. Now, there are some other things you can add to this as well. However, my daughter, who's sitting behind the camera and who's been eyeballing this recipe bubble away for the last half an hour, is signaling me to keep it pure, but otherwise, some other suggestions that I might give you as you're making this at home You could easily throw some dry fruit in here, some dry blueberries, dry cranberries, some raisins, some sultanas. They all work well in this application as well. I would even use maybe a little bit of candied ginger, maybe 3 or 4 pieces of candied ginger, cut that up fairly fine and mix that into your stuffing. But in this case, I'm being given the old from behind the camera. I think my brood here would like more of a traditional apple strudel, which is fine. Just the apples and the pears in this application will work beautifully well. They are very complementary flavors. And just the excess heat from that pan will soften the pears slightly, and the pears will start to release some of that juice and just make that filling just a little bit more complex. So we are going to take this off the heat. We're going to allow this to cool for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we're going to get right into assembling our strudel. But in the meantime, we are going to make dinner, so we are going to get to the second half of our double header. I will see you in about 45 minutes. All right, the time has come to now assemble our beautiful apple strudel. So what I have here is some phyllo pastry that I have just unwrapped, and I have this here under a damp tea towel just because I want this to maintain a little bit of humidity. I don't want this to dry out. This is very, very delicate, very, very thin. And so what we're going to do is we need to work quickly here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just unwrap this quickly. And what I want is to take off the first delicate sheet of phyllo pastry. Here we are. And I'm just going to put this directly on my board. And now I'm going to cover this up. What I have here is a ramekin of melted butter. This is unsalted butter. And what I want to do is I want to moisten my phyllo pastry with just a little bit of this melted butter. There we are. Just going to put this here for a second while there we are. Stretch this out. Now we want to be very delicate. This phyllo is very, very thin, and this will tear if we're not careful. So what we want to do is we want to get a beautiful layer of melted butter here all over our phyllo pastry, and this is what will allow it to crispen up and make a beautiful apple strudel. There we are. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to build this up in layers. Obviously one layer is way too thin, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this up over 4 layers as I assemble my strudel. So I will go in for one more. There we are. Now if it happens to rip a little bit, not a problem, because we will have multiple layers here that we will be using for our apple strudel. Oh, there we are. Alright, so we will get this layered onto our first one. There we are. We will cover this one once again. Get back to our melted butter. And we will again brush this all over. So what I will do is I will get 4 layers assembled, and I will see you in about 3 or 4 minutes. We are back. We have just brushed the last of our 4 layers here with some melted butter. There we are. And now what we're going to do, we will take our filling here that has been resting, and during this time I can tell you it's been sampled several times from our camera crew. So I'm sure it's good. There we are. So now all we're going to do is we're going to divide this in half, and we are going to spread this, there we are, right on to our apple strudel. There we are. There we are. And just one more little scoop here. There we go. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to line this up. And you notice I have this closer to one side of my apple strudel than the other. There's a reason for that. There we are. Absolutely beautiful. There we are. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go under here and we are just going to roll this over. There we are. And roll this over just so that we have a clean edge. And then we are going to roll this up. There we are. And now what I'm going to do is just get a little dough scraper. There we are. And we are just going to help roll this along. There we are. And we are going to take this guy here and roll it. There we are. And here is our beautiful apple strudel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my phyllo out of the way. I have here a baking sheet with a lovely piece of parchment. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my dough scraper to help me position this to one side. There we are. Of my sheet pan. And now we are going to assemble our second one. So we will do so in exactly the same way. I will take about 10 minutes to assemble my second one, and I will see you in about 10. All right, it is time to get our two beautiful strudels in the oven. So we've got our oven preheated to about 375. And I've got a little bit of melted butter here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush the outside with one final coating of melted butter. There we are. Are. All right. One final coating of melted butter. And then what we are going to add to this is a little bit of demerara sugar. So this is, if you think about it, this is, think of it as rock sugar. So you have different gradings, different finenesses of salt. This is a very coarse grind of sugar. And what I like to do is just put this on top just to give it an extra dimension of crunch. This sugar will stick to the melted butter. And this has beautiful notes of toffee and molasses and brown sugar. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to drizzle this right on top of our apple strudel. There we go. And this will cook right into that phyllo pastry, and it will give it a beautiful crunch right in terms of the end product. This is now ready for the oven. I'm going to throw this in the oven 375 degrees for about 20 minutes, and then I will check it. May need to flip it around and give it a couple more minutes after that, but we're going to start with 20 minutes, and then we'll see how this unfolds. So I will see you in about 20 minutes time. We are back, and here is our strudel. I mean, an absolute work of art. This guy was in the oven about 35 minutes, about 15 minutes in, rotated the pan just to get even cooking on both of our strudels, and look at this beauty. We've got these beautiful crispy layers of phyllo. We've got our demerara sugar that's beautifully crystallized on the outside. It's time. It is time. All right, so what we're going to do here, we are just going to go in. There we are. Look at these beautiful shards of phyllo dough. Now, if you're anything like me, I love the end piece. And the reason why I love the end piece, it's got that little extra bit of phyllo dough. Oh, look at that. Absolutely. Look at that. There we are. All of our apple filling right in there. Absolutely beautiful. Now the only adornment that I would recommend here is a good bit of good quality vanilla ice cream. Now yes, Coach Joe does make his own vanilla ice cream, and at some point in the channel I will put it on there. But today we're gonna go with a good quality ice cream that I bought. Just a good quality vanilla ice cream. That's all you need. Very, very simple. 1 scoop, and we're gonna put that right on there. Warm apple strudel. Beautifully cold vanilla ice cream. Now this, you can put a little bit of powdered sugar on this if you like. It needs no further adornment. So we're just gonna move this out of the way. We're gonna move this out of the way. We're gonna stretch out a little bit here. Limber up. Oh, can you hear that? Can you hear that? Oh, absolutely gorgeous. All those beautiful layers of phyllo. There we are. Oh. Make sure we get a little bit of everything here. Mmm. 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 It's crispy. It's delicate. Those apples, the pears, the cinnamon, all of that flavor just bursts right through. And the combination of that phyllo pastry and that beautiful warm apple filling with the vanilla ice cream, fantastic. An absolutely fantastic dessert for any day of the week, for the holidays, absolutely for any time. It's great. It's got the goodness of fruit, and it's not overly rich in terms of multiple layers of big layers of cake and that kind of stuff. Keep it simple, keep it delicate. A little bit of a scoop of ice cream is all you need. One of the absolutely phenomenal desserts of all time. Do hope you try it. As always, do like and subscribe to the channel. Do share the content if you find it at all useful, as that is the point of the channel. But do try it out. Hope you do. And this is Coach Joe saying I will see you on the next one.